Good afternoon, everybody. I am an associated member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker dealer, member of SIPC. All of my trades are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. There is the position disclosure. It's the same as yesterday. All right. Let's jump on in here. All right. So the market had a big update today. Spies are up a percentage point. Qs are up 1.25%. Yeah, I think mine was up 3%. Holy cow. 3% for the Russell. 3% for the Russell. Big day. Yet the TLT is down. So rates are actually up a little bit, which is kind of weird. The dollar is also down. I guess the TLT maybe is just down on actually, I don't know why it's down. Lack of fear. I don't know. But the dollar here is back below 27.50. Weaker day for the dollar. It's also good for equity markets. Gold was down small. Oil was down big. This oil has been getting clobbered in the month of August so far. Um, and Bitcoin is up, but not big. Not nearly as big as the equity market. All right, so it was a big update today, right? What did I say? Spies are up a percentage point. So the CPI number, which was really important for today, pretty much came in line. That in line number, though, we discussed this in yesterday's afternoon meeting. JP Morgan was modeling that number that we got this morning should lead to about a 0.75% uptick in the market. Goldman was modeled that actually a little bit lower, more like 0.5%. So the market exceeded the expectations of both JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs in terms of how up we were today. So it was a big update today that was combined with a big technical breakout on the market through SPY 640. So really, really big update today. You can just see, breaking out to all-time highs, closed at the high of the day, and it's a day one breakout too. This is a day one breakout, and we're not that extended. We're $7 extended at the close. We'll be even less than that tomorrow morning, assuming a flat open. So everything points to continuation from here. There's nothing that you can put your hat on if you're a bear that says that we're extended and should pull back, or there's resistance that we can fail off of, or there is really bad news that we should sell down on. There's nothing for you if you're a bear. There is nothing for you. Go home. Um, Spies just total breakout here through 640. The market still looks buyable here versus 640. I guess it'd be a little bit interesting if for some reason we were to break back below that at some point in the near future, but there is no reason to really expect that. Maybe a little shake and bake around 640 just because of the degree of extension off the ADMA, but it's like I said, it's not even that extended. So market looks fantastic. The Nasdaq here, which is where there was some strength. Actually, there wasn't even relative strength in the Nasdaq; it was in the IWM. But the Qs here are closing at about $9 of extension off the ADMA, so it's a pretty big update today. Again, will be less extended tomorrow, but if we were to really gap up tomorrow, you'd be getting into extreme extension, but it would only be a day two gap up. So for me, it's too early to consider shorting. And I am expecting this market's going to continue higher. That's what it looks like. And we did this today without our traditional leaders for the most part, like Nvidia, AMD. They were fairly relatively weak. Nvidia only closed up 0.4% or so. AMD a little bit better, up 1.5%, but these names were weak compared to the SMH names because of that news that came out of China this morning that basically said that President Xi is recommending that Chinese government entities and corporations do not buy these NVIDIA and AMD chips. So you would think that would be bad for these companies, but nothing is bad for anything. We only go up. So that is NVIDIA and AMD, a little bit of weakness there. I would argue that Palantir didn't really give massive follow through today either. That's a fail. That's a fake tail here in my daily chart candle. If anybody's looking at that, so no new absolute highs in Palantir, but still really extended. Not it was a 1 day price correction in Palantir is nothing. Obviously, massively helped by the market. It looked like it was trying to be weak this morning, but that was it. Turning things over to the 5 minute, the price action was interesting in the beginning of the day. In the beginning of the day, it looked like maybe there was a chance that we were going to fail this move. Um, the the prices that we were watching that we discussed in the morning meeting was basically like 636, I believe, in the spies and 640 in the spies. And that is the starting point at 8:30 is 636 and the reaction high was 640. And we spent the first hour and a half within that range for the spies. The Qs actually ticked negative today. Did anyone forget? The Qs actually ticked negative real briefly at a certain point. The Qs traded below real briefly their 8:30 starting point before also obviously ripping higher. So there was some interesting price action off the open. It looked for a few minutes there like we could break in either way. It looked for a few minutes like we could break down. I actually thought by 10:30 that the market was going to stay relatively range bound on this. But then we seemed to just catch an algorithmic bid of some sort that was a trend following algo on this ADMA that just brought us up and brought us up and brought us up. So who is the buyer? We're running out of a bid on from the systematic community. I mean, I guess I read a note that showed that if realized vol is 0.5% or less on average over the course of the next 2 weeks, we still actually will get like a healthy $20 billion of buying from vol control. But it might even be a little bit more than that. But if realized vol is 8% or more, which today we closed at just a full percentage point, then the vol control community actually becomes a seller. So technically, they should be a small seller based on today's trading session. But so it was not really the systematic community today. I don't think that was buying. But we also know, what do we know? We know that the funds are relatively low in terms of their participation right now on the long side of this market. I referenced, and I think just yesterday's afternoon meeting, two different charts that showed that like long short hedge funds are not very long this market. And then Billy D in the VTF shared some data. I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was something about the hedge fund community being very, very short the IWM specifically. So I remember in the beginning of the trading session today, before we really broke out and went, when it still seemed like we could potentially break in either direction, it actually seemed in the first 30 minutes like today was like a max pain day for long short funds because you had names like Nvidia and AMD trading really poorly. Nvidia I actually forgot about this until this moment. Nvidia briefly lost 180 today. It was never enough to hold below 180, but 180 is a huge level now for Nvidia. If Nvidia can really get below and hold below 180, this thing looks bad. And I remember mentioning in the morning meeting today, I was like, guys, Nvidia, we got to watch 180 on the downside. We got to watch 183.50 to 184 on the upside. Nvidia failed. I'm not going to pull up the pre-market chart, but Nvidia failed into that 184 pre-market on its initial reaction to the move, and then was so relatively weak that it was immediately negative within 5 minutes, and actually on the intraday even broke below 180 before it was kind of saved by the market. So, Nvidia was just real bad. At this point, like Pat was saying into the close, though, uh, this Nvidia looks like it's ready. If the market gives a day two tomorrow, which it looks like it's going to, this thing's going to break out. But anyway, in the first 30 minutes of the day, it seemed like a maximum pain day because what the funds were most long, which is the Nvidias of the world, were very weak. But what they were most short was very strong again. The IWM had relative strength all day, including in the opening session, even with the pullback that it gave. And it was another day where you could look at like the D nuts of the world. There's a whole bunch of these that were just kind of squeezing higher at certain points during the trading session. Um, from TT here, according to Goldman Sachs, hedge funds shorted $4.3 billion in small cap stocks between July 22nd and August 5th, the largest 2 week amount in the last in at least 10 years. So yeah, it seemed like it was a max pain day for the funds in the first 30 minutes. And then the market by at 11 o'clock, when we got through this SPY 640, then it was no more max pain, at least for anybody who is long anything. It was back to just full on bull mode. Even like Nvidia, which kind of stayed relatively weak, it was able to go green. It was able to be relatively just fine. It did not lose that 180, and we broke through this 640, and it was just full on bull mode. And that is the big level. That's the big daily level. We have now. This has been the big question that we've been asking ourselves for the last 2 weeks: is what breaks in this market? SPY 640 to the upside or SPY 620 to the downside? Well, everybody, you have your answer. 640 to the upside on an inline CPI because the market doesn't care that growth is slowing down as long as growth isn't getting too bad and you're getting Fed rate cuts at the same time. And the CPI today just further confirmed that the Fed is able to begin to cut rates in September, in my opinion. Next big event is going to be Jackson Hole, but I don't see Jerome Powell doing a Jackson Hole bait and switch like he did back in 2022. Maybe he comes out a little bit hawkish, but I don't. We talked about it. I think at some point on the VTF today that 2022 Jackson Hole event, Jerome Powell just crushed it. Someone in the VTF described it as like a formative event of their life or something, which I thought was kind of funny. I wonder if I can even find it in here real quick. Jackson Hole, August, probably late August. Probably is it this day right here, August 26th? Look at that candle. Holy cow. It was either that or it's the gap and go to the downside day on August 22nd. I'm not sure. Interesting to see the second half of August in 2022 is where the real weakness was, and the first half was actually really strong. I feel like that's not a typical pattern for the S&P in August. August 26th, that was it. Yeah, look at that. Brutal, brutal, brutal day. I can only imagine what the president would be saying on Twitter if Jerome Powell on August 26th repeated this. Spies went from 420 to 405 in on the day, just absolutely dead. That session must have been brutal. So yeah, but now we are breaking out. Market looks like it's set for continuation. Today's just a day one. You should expect a day two tomorrow. You should probably even expect a day three at this point. We are in full on bull mode. And after getting through the CPI, I really don't know what can derail us. We're through earnings, we're through the CPI, we have fully retraced any negativity that came from the non-farm payrolls number because the Fed is now expected to cut. I can't imagine anything that can hit us down at this point. So we look fantastic, and that's all I got. Yeah, VIX Expo next week. OPEX is upcoming as well. So all it tends to do is loosen the market up, though. It's not necessarily a bearish event in and of itself, right? It just tends to loosen us up a little bit further. And the technicals here, I see no reason technically or fundamentally at this point why we should go down if we haven't gone down already. Outside of maybe a certain point over positioning on the long side, but I've been looking at over positioning in some leading names really for a while, and we can't break lower on them. I mean, I guess you could lose Nvidia. I guess you could have a TLT crisis, but TLT's got to get back below 84 to matter. It's so far away at this point. So I see nothing that can derail further continuation to today's breakout. So keep buying, keep buying. That's all I got. I don't have a ton of time here, but I am happy to answer any questions. You circle getting hit after hours here for some reason. CoreWeave is down on their earnings report. Shout out to Alfred on that one. Is that hitting cores down too? Yeah, CORZ trading down 50 cents here also. All right, happy to do a few quick questions or comments over in the YouTube. SOLT was up a lot today. Do you think EQX weekly looks like accumulation and potentially follows GDX weekly trend? EQX. What is this? Equinox Gold? It's a gold name that I'm not familiar with. I thought I knew most of the gold names. I don't like this chart. I greatly prefer the chart of like a Newmont or even GDX. GDX, Newmont, they look fantastic. Why is it that this EQX has not participated with the other names? There's a little bit of a recent breakout here. You could be long versus 640, but if you scroll out a little bit, that breakout above the 640 here is just within the confines of a much larger consolidation and is a name that has been very relatively weak compared to the other gold miners. I think that the gold miners themselves look excellent, but I don't know about this EQX. You could try some versus 640 or even today's low, but I probably not a name for me. Circle does a 10 million share offering. That's interesting. That's interesting because they're so close to the IPO still that they're doing a secondary offering already. I remember wondering at a certain point if CoreWeave, which we feel has to raise capital, could do a secondary offering. We're talking about that when it was at 170, 180, and it never actually did. So it's very interesting to see that Circle here is doing a secondary offering. That should destroy the stock. From Varun, if we are all out bullish, what's the game plan for day two, day three short? Stop yourself out is the game plan. Oh, you mean for when it sets up? Well, then that's just a mean reversion trade. So that's just a mean reversion trade. So if you get day three, like a day three gap up and you're $13 extended away from the ADMA on the daily, it's a consistent sign when you're above $10 of extension from the ADMA and it's at least a day three to come in for a cute short, just looking for a little mean reversion back down to the ADMA on the daily. You're not looking for a reversal, you're just looking for the market to satisfy its extension. Target would really be just the ADMA on the daily chart from the indexes. That'd be a trade for, let's say, Tuesday. That'd be like a trade for Thursday potentially when we continue and continue and continue. Uh, Anything else? Otherwise, I don't mind doing a quick one. From Cyril, the Japan Nikkei index is going to gap up hugely in the Japan session night, also new all-time highs. Do you think it can squeeze higher also? If you can give me a ETF, forget the Japan ETF. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. I could look at it. I am not an expert on most foreign markets. I pay attention to them peripherally just to see their impact on US equities. I probably follow China most closely because one, China's important, but two, there's a lot of, public ADRs that we trade very regularly on the team that are Chinese companies. So I pay attention to them peripherally just more for their impact on our markets than for them in and of themselves. But if you want me to look at an ETF that represents Japan, I can take a quick look. Yeah, there's definitely an ETF. I just don't remember the symbol. Uh, Eddie on FTNT. FTNT can easily bounce back further in this gap. I would say you should already have the stock in it though. The higher it goes, the worse the risk reward. Palo Alto, yeah, kind of same deal on this PanW. Market's helping it. Market could help it further. Stock could easily get to 177.50 to 180. But the more these weak names bounce, the worse the risk reward is. If you're not already in them, if anything, if I was long, I'd be wanting to book profit at these price points and holding some for a little bit of a further move. But I'd be more interested in booking profit on a long and starting a new long on these things. I don't want to be buying the weakest names right now. Um, the market looks set for continuation. Like I said, this is a day one breakout, but I still don't fully trust it in this August September period. I really want to get through at least September and see where the cards kind of lie to kind of regain a bigger picture bull thesis beyond just like little technical trades. So until we get through the August September period, I am in no rush to buy relatively weak stocks. I can barely get myself to buy the relatively strong stocks, let alone the weak ones. FLJP. This is Japan. FLJP. Never heard of that one before. There's definitely other ones, but this is definitely one also. Yeah, I mean, looks fantastic. Looks fantastic. If anything, it's starting to go a little bit parabolic, but probably isn't there yet. No problem, Michael. Have a good one. Probably is not there yet. All right. I am going to end the meeting there. Have a great night, everybody. See you all tomorrow.